What's up guys, welcome back to Pat Outdoors. Today we're going to be working on the Vipcoo H3. Just going to be doing some aesthetic changes. Also going to be converting this to a Supermoto and taking a closer look at the stock controller and battery compartment to get a better idea what can be done to these type of bikes to make it a little bit faster. In case you're new to this bike, this is Vipcoo's 48 volt electric pit bike with a 1412 wheel set, 3500 watt motor, which is mounted in the swing arm, and it has a top speed of 37 miles per hour. I'm at 180 pounds and I tested this to be 34 miles per hour GPS. You could probably go a little bit faster if you're a smaller and lighter rider. It's got hydraulic brakes with 190 millimeter disc brake rotors, LED headlight, LED taillight with turn signals. What's unique about the H3 in comparison to the other electric pit bikes in the market, such as the Tudio, my Razor, Yasmas, Hay Bikes, Kunfon, and even the ETM RTR, is this bike is significantly taller. Like the seat height, I believe is like 33 or 34 inches. It's almost as high as the Honda CRF 150R. So this bike would be perfect for taller riders that are just looking for a small bike to mess around with. If you want to get more information on the Vipcoo H3, I'll leave a link to their listing in the description below. You can also get yourself 11% off this bike using discount code PATOutdoors. Let's start tearing this thing down, take all the plastics off, take the battery out, and take a closer look at that controller. Look at all this. This is what attracted me to this bike. How much space there is for a battery. Like there's got to be at least 5 inches of open space between the stock battery and the bottom of the controller. Like you can probably fit at least a 40 amp hour, 48 volt battery in here. And then there's still even additional space under the battery. Like if you have a decent amount of fabrication skills, which I don't, you can probably cut off this bottom tray and fit maybe a Sur-Ron battery in there. Not gonna lie, I think it looks pretty dope with it fully naked like this. I'm almost tempted to just mount the seat on along with the battery side plastics and call it a day. This is probably one of the very few frame designs that could potentially rock a naked street bike look. So I was looking at the wire connectors here on top of the controller. This motor appears to be using a Hall sensor. I assumed it would be using an encoder sensor since this looked like a Tudio motor, but that does leave me with more options for controllers that I already have here. And I really don't know what type of controller this is. Comment below if you guys happen to know. Here's a closer look at the stamp on top of the controller. I'm really not familiar with this type, but it says 55 amps, so we're definitely gonna be swapping the controller out. I'm just simply looking for a little bit more power. Wow, that battery is easily removable. And it looks almost identical to a Yasma stock battery. You know what, I'm gonna test something out real quick. So this is my Amorge 30 amp hour, 72 volt battery for my IN10, which I'm using for my 80 mile an hour setup. It's got a peak output of 360 amps and 300 continuous, which means for 10 seconds, this thing's able to put out at least 25,000 watts. Let's see if it's gonna fit in here. With plenty of room to spare. It's not going on this bike though. Let's see if a Sur-Ron Lightbeat battery fits. Ah, damn. Comes pretty close, but I would definitely have to modify some of the frame, and I prefer not to do that on such a new bike. If I could somehow relocate the mounting point for the controller, I might be able to fit this with not much modification. Well, we still got all the plastics off the bike. We're going to be installing this new brake safety switch from Vipcoo, which is essentially the same thing as the original one that's currently installed on the rear brake lever. We're just going to be installing it on the front brake lever so it doesn't cut power to the controller when you're trying to wheelie and using the rear brake. If you still want the function of cutting the power to the controller when you're activating the front brake, you need one of these in place. It's also needed to activate the brake function on the taillight. Next, we're going to be installing this new plastic set that I got from Vipcoo. Damn, it looks like they glued the ignition in place. I'm definitely gonna have to cut that glue all around. Hopefully I don't damage anything. Next, we're going to be installing a set of these Supermotos white mags with Kenda Curve street tires already come pre-mounted. I got these from the Watt Shop or Voltron Watts. They didn't just come with the wheels and tires, but they also came with a new set of disc brake rotors already pre-mounted. I believe these are 190 millimeters, so I shouldn't need to swap them out with the stock ones. I think they're the same overall diameter. And it also came with a 48 tooth 420 sprocket already mounted. I also got one from Vipcoo since they want me to experiment with gearing. The 48 tooth should technically make it faster as far as top speed, but I believe that's gonna make the gearing pretty tall. So I'm suspecting that we're gonna lose quite a bit of low end torque, but we'll see how it rides. Front tire size is a 90/90/12. And the rear is 120/70/12. So it is nice that the wheel sets that you get from the Watt Shop already come with the sprocket and disc brake rotors already mounted. They also came with all sorts of different spacers for different applications. Now these 4 specific ones are inserts. They go in the bearing area to convert it from the larger style axle, like what you see on an ETM RTR, to the 12 mil axles, which is what you see on the Vipcoo H3, Yasma IN10, Tudio. And then you also get 2 sets of spacers for in between the fork and swing arms and the wheels. Now the Supermoto wheel set is technically designed for a Tudio, but I'm thinking we could use it on the H3 with very minimal modifications, if any. So I'm gonna confirm which spacers we need. Also came with some decals. I think this one's my favorite though. I work so my pit bike can have a better life. This company carries all sorts of parts and upgrades for multiple kinds of pit bikes, such as the ETM RTR, the Rizzler, Burromax, Haybike, Tudio, Yasmas, and Valtinzus. Also the Razors. So if you have any of those type of bikes, make sure you check out the Watt Shop. You can also get yourself 5% off anything from the Watt Shop using discount code PADOutdoors. Now this is what I mean by the axle inserts. They go in here where the bearings are. It just converts it to the proper overall diameter. Now let's see which spacers are gonna work. I'm gonna try reusing the original spacers first. All right, well that's definitely not gonna work. I think I figured out which ones I need. It's the 2 shorter ones. The absolute shortest one's gonna go on this side, and then the one that's just slightly longer is gonna go on the side where the brake caliper is mounted. All right, the wheel is positioned perfectly center on the fork, so I know these are the correct spacers that we need, but I just need to correct one small clearance issue, which is right on the back side of the caliper. The lower bolt is just making very light contact with the bolts holding down the rotor onto the rim. So I'm just gonna add one small spacer on the back side of the lower caliper bracket, and that should create the perfect amount of clearance. Perfect. Pretty interesting how they have the chain tension adjustment done on this bike. Their eye bolts kind of like how quads do it rather than the axle block. But I kind of like this better because it's a lot easier to tighten it. And the same thing with the back. We're gonna have to figure out which spacer combo we need. But first we gotta put the inserts in. Okay, so for the back, it looks like the best combo are gonna be the stock spacers combined with the inserts. I just put the tensioners and everything back on except for the chain. Then I snug the rear axle just enough so we can still slide forward and back while we adjust the chain tension. But before we can do that, we gotta shorten the chain by at least a couple links since we put a much smaller sprocket in place. Now that we got the chain length to the correct range that we need, I'm gonna tighten the chain tension adjustment on both sides evenly to make sure that the rear wheel is still tracking straight, and then we'll tighten the rear axle. The chain tension on these type of bikes can be adjusted much tighter than traditional dirt bikes since the motor is mounted within the swing arm. So the chain tension doesn't change whenever the swing arm is compressing. So I have the slack at about 1/4 inch. This thing is starting to look pretty dope. I was a little unsure about the plastics at first, but I think it goes really well with the white wheels. I was also unsure about the white wheels at first, but I'm glad I didn't go with gloss black again. I just have too many of those. I just want something a little bit different this time, and I'm glad I went with this color combo. I think it definitely stands out and looks a lot more unique than just plain black. Let me know what you guys think of this bike so far. Okay, let's see how much faster the H3 is with the new 48 tooth sprocket. Well, there is a noticeable change there, and it doesn't appear to have lost too much low end torque. One thing I noticed though is it doesn't seem to accelerate as quickly as it did prior. Actually, you know what? There is a noticeable difference when you're at the lower speed. So here it is from a stop, full acceleration, and yeah, it doesn't accelerate as hard from a stop. So it definitely lost quite a bit of low end torque. I think a more appropriate rear sprocket size would have been something like a 53 or 54 tooth sprocket, so it's not so tall. Me personally, I think that the best approach for chasing speed out of these electric bikes is installing a higher amp output controller along with a higher voltage battery. A combination of both is how you get some true torque and power overall, and combined with the right motor and gearing, you can get some serious speed like 60, 70, even close to 80 miles per hour with the right combination and gearing. But at those higher speed levels, the budget definitely needs to go up. Like my Yasma took almost $2,200–$2,300 worth of power modifications to get it over 70 miles per hour. And I'm trying to take a different approach with the Vipcoo. I'm hoping to get at least 60 miles per hour with less than $1,000 worth of power modifications. Comment below if you have any specific suggestions and let me know what you guys would like to see on this H3 build. If you are interested in checking out any of the parts that we're using for this project so far, I'll have everything linked in the description below. If you enjoyed today's video, do me a favor and hit that like button. And if you like this kind of content, want to keep up with some of my projects, make sure you subscribe to this channel and turn your bell notification on. But this is going to be it for today. Thank you for watching.